Hello, everyone. Welcome to the series Mudd Talks, the state of making at Mudd with Makerspace Director and Professor Jeff Groves, Head Makerspace Steward Felix Murphy, Class of 24, Makerspace Manager Kim Neal, Machine Shop Manager Drew Price, and Machine Shop Proctor Sidney Taylor, Class of 23. My name is Vanessa Chu, Assistant Director in the Office of Alumni and Parent Relations. We thank you for attending today's event, and we hope you and your family are well. This talk is being recorded and will be distributed after the event. Please feel free to type your questions in the Q&A, not the chat, and we will try to get through as many questions as we can. You're in for a special treat tonight. This Mudd Talks will be about 90 minutes, starting with a tour of the new Makerspace and followed by a panel discussion. You can follow along the floor plan during the tour using this link that I'm going to drop in the chat now. Now, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Felix to introduce himself and kick it off. Take it away, Felix.
Hi there, I'm Felix Murphy. I'm a sophomore engineering major here at Mudd, and I'm one of the head Makerspace stewards. So today we're going to do about an hour of tours of the Makerspace and the shops, and then we're going to do about a half hour of Q&A, and I get to lead you through the Makerspace today. So just also a quick note, because this is an active space, we have students in here, and there's the same thing in the shops. We may have to put on our masks at times just due to current COVID regulations. So apologies if things become a bit muffled or if I have to do that at any point. I got the opportunity to spend the summer here. I was helping set up the space because it's brand new. This building is brand new. And we started the summer with an almost empty room with a few tables in it. And we slowly spent the summer filling up, getting the 3D printers in place, getting furniture in. We wrote all the policy for the space, all sorts of stuff. So this basically is my my life at this point. Not gonna lie, I'm in here. You can almost always find me in here, and I am very excited to show you around. So if we want to start, we can show you the lounge over this way. Students have the opportunity; they can come in here at any time and study. I often study in here as well. This is the lounge, and then if you look over in this corner over here, this is one of our 2 team rooms. They are not reserved, so any student can come in at any time. We all have swipe to them, and we can use them morning, noon, and night. And this is one of my favorite places to study on campus. It's kind of quiet, but you still get all the ambiance of the Makerspace, so it's a good place to study. You can see there are whiteboards all over the place of people collaborating or just writing fun things, like this whiteboard that my friend noted, making fun of engineers for using J for I. It's J when it's meant to be I, and all that fun stuff. So if we walk this way, I'm going to quickly take you through half the Makerspace, and then we will go over to another Proctor, Sidney, for the machine shops. So coming this way, this is it's a bit of a wall of chaos right now, but Mark, one of our clubs, the Rocketry Club, stores a lot of their materials in here. We have clubs in here all the time. So we have Sewing Club come in, we have Rocketry come in, we have Mudd Sub come in. And all of these clubs are allowed to use this space, meet in here. I oftentimes come in on the weekends and there's clubs working on different things. So you never kind of know what you're going to find in here, which is a fun little adventure. We also have a lot of stock for sewing. So if students want to use fabric, we have just a bunch on hand that they can use pretty much any of. Yeah. We also have our little kitchen area here. My personal favorite, great place to store lunch if you're running late for Makerspace and Proctor use. And it's also just a good little cleanup area with tons of extra storage if you need it. And then we come through here. This is our tool lockup room. This is where we keep all the really fun stuff. Or not all of it, but a lot of it. This is a stewards only space for the most part, but we allow students to check out all the tools they need. They just have to check with the steward first to make sure that they're qualified. Things. We don't want students using things improperly, so we have stewards on shift. Roughly 10 hours a day most days, and students can come in, talk to a steward, learn everything they need to know for a machine, and use it pretty much within like an hour span. I've seen students come in with almost no sewing ability and leaving with little things they've made multiple times, which is really fun. We have a little demonstration table here for when a student wants to check something out and they don't know how to use it, they can work with the steward right here. And then if we come this way, I can show you a little bit more of our stock. In this section, we have a lot of hand tools, power tools, electronic stuff that we just don't want laying around overnight, either because students can hurt themselves or because it's a little bit more expensive. So we have a good array of different tools and materials they can use. We have hand drills, we have chop saws, we have basically anything you can need between here and the shop. We'll probably have it for you. We also have our drone, which is really fun. It's got a camera that you can attach to it, so I haven't gotten to play with it quite yet, but I'm really excited for when I do. The Rocketry Club will be talking about doing some drone photography for their launches, so hopefully one day we'll be able to see our rockets go up, which would be really fun. Come this way. This is our little sewing embroidery section. We have 4 embroidery machines, some of which are on loan from the C department, but they only use them for about a year, so we get them for the rest of the year. Embroidery is one of those things that I never thought I would be into, but over the summer, it actually turned into a lot of fun. I was able to create the Mudd logo and do a lot of fun things, and I know my dorm, one of the current plans for my dorm is our intramural inner tube water polo team is going to embroider the back of some bathrobes for us so that we all have matching bathrobes for inner tube water polo, which is a lot of fun. We also have our sergers and our stock of sewing machines, as well as a cry cut machine. And all of this is entirely available for any student to come and use. There's no special safety quizzes they have to take for this. There's a general safety quiz you have to take that just makes sure you know where the fire extinguishers are, the first aid kits, the safety stuff. That's like bare minimum. It's about 6 questions long. It takes you about 5 minutes to do maybe. And really, we were trying to keep our barriers to entry as low as possible. And so stuff like this, you can just come in and talk to a steward and use. We really want to get as many students in here as possible. And that's kind of one of the ways we're doing it. So we have a lot of sewing machines. We have 7 that you can use at any time. If you want to use one after steward hours, you can always ask to check one out overnight. We have a whole lockup area that we will show you in a minute where you can check things out overnight to make sure that you still have access. This space is open 24 hours. If you've passed, there's a few things you can't do all hours, such as welding, mostly for safety reasons, but the majority of things in here you can do at any point in time. This gives students a lot of opportunities to come in and relax, either do some projects maybe later at night than you would like students to be doing, but it's fine. Or if they just need a break from studying. There's been a few times when I've come in here to just take 10 minutes, work on something really quick, check on a project, go start a 3D print, go pick up a 3D print, and it's been like 11:30. And I'm just really appreciative that this space is open 24 hours so that I can do that, because a lot of spaces it's hard close. The machine shop unfortunately has to be hard close at midnight, but we're able to kind of keep it more open. So yeah, we have all of our sewing machines, our cry cuts, as I said, really fun area. And then we also have our dress forms over here and stuff like stuffing and just other materials that students can use at any time. That's most of what's in here. There's a lot of other small stock pieces, but we're going to move on right now. So if we head this way, we're coming up on our composites room. The composite room, the wonderfully named composite room, I should say, named after one of our wonderful members of faculty here that spent a significant amount of time and has really been heading up the whole Makerspace. Composite room is called the Jeffrey D. Gross State Beyond Room. If we want to get that shot real quick. And this room really services students who want to work with resins, composites, things that otherwise you may not want to have mingling in the air for safety reasons. This room has negative airflow or negative air pressure, so that you don't have to worry about fumes and particles being an issue for everyone else in the space. Former in here and a few other fun things, but over the summer, for instance, I was able to use this room to do quite a bit of resin work. I was building a bench for outside of McGregor, and we wanted to cover this entire massive slab of wood and resin. We were able to do that entirely here. And it's just a great room that allows you to do a lot more work than you'd expect. This room hasn't had a ton of use yet, but I'm very excited. I know Prof. Spute was very excited about this room for his high-powered rocketry class, because there's different composites you can use to build stronger rockets that I think he was talking about using this. I've also used this room a little bit for the Aerolab class, which I will also talk about in a second. So let's continue though. If you hear beeping in the distance, that's very likely the laser cutter being used. But for now, we'll get to that. This is the tool lockup room. So as I mentioned before, if students want to check out things overnight, all they have to do is talk to a steward, say, hey, I'm qualified to use this, and the steward will allow them to put it in one of these lockers. These lockers can be coded to any 4-digit code the student picks. So the student is able to just say, hey, I need my code to be 1234, and the steward will put in 1234, and then only that student will have access to this locker. We'll check it back in the morning, and that just allows students to really have access to things 24/7. We also have this wonderful cleanup space. It's used a lot for composites, or because that other area is also our kitchen, we don't want everything mixing back and forth. So we got our second cleanup area over here, which has been really handy to have. In the back corner over here, you can see ESW. This is one of their projects, Engineers for a Sustainable World. They're working on some solar panel stuff. I don't know all the details of it, but it's kind of fun to always come in here and see new random projects that are lying around that you never would have expected. Like this just showed up one day and I was like, whoa, where did that come from? But I slowly getting more background on it. All right, let's move on. And as we move over here, this is Aerolab. So some of you may recall David Harris was building an airplane in the basement of Carson's for several years. He just finished it up 2 years ago, and he wanted to build another one. Unfortunately, basements aren't the best place to build airplanes for a lot of reasons. Number one being it's an airplane, and you have to be able to get it out of the basement. And so when he heard that we were having a brand new makerspace, he was really excited about the prospect of doing a long-term project in here. So this is what we've started. This is the class. I'm actually in this class. We meet 3.5 hours every Wednesday, and we just work on building these wings, work on building the whole airplane. This project is expected to last about 2 years, we think. Right now, we're working on getting in more pieces of the body, but this is kind of what we have so far. It's really exciting. It's a really fun opportunity too, because one of the things we were excited about over the summer was the possibility of long-term large projects in the makerspace. This was one of the first ideas we had brought to us. One of the other things that we're currently going on is Mark is building a large-scale rocket that we hope to launch to about 25,000 feet. I think is our brand new apogee, but they're also working here, and having a massive space like this really allows students to have these bigger projects that just wouldn't fit in other locations. So things like Mark, when they're building the rocket, that rocket's going to end up about 12 feet long, and having a space where they can just leave it and let it stay out and trust that students are going to mess with their work is really useful and really helpful for clubs and students alike, because otherwise we wouldn't have opportunities to build stuff like that. And I think over time, we're going to get more and more long-term projects like that. And I'm really excited to start to see them fill up the space. So it's very exciting for me. Yeah, if you have any more questions about Aerolab, as I mentioned earlier, we'll have a Q&A session, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions about all of this. I'm currently working on the wing section of this. We've been riveting for weeks, and I'm excited to see them finally finished. So, all right, we're going to move on to the electronics benches now. So I'm just going to have to put a mask on real quick. All right, so these are our electronics benches. Behind me, they're fully stocked. Keysight was very kind and donated a lot of materials to us, and also a lot of tools and oscilloscopes and all that fun stuff. I often see students come in here from E85 and E79 to come in and practice their soldering skills. I personally came in to practice for my midterm for E79. And students can come in here when I wouldn't usually have access, because a lot of the electronics materials are behind class doors here at Mudd. So having like a full set of stocked electronic benches are really helpful. I've seen all sorts of projects around here. The other day I came in here and there's just a shopping cart with about probably like 10 pounds of equipment attached to it, all of which I don't know anything about electronics, but it looked real fancy. And they were in here working on that for several hours. And so seeing different projects that come in here is really great. And you can see like there are always students working in here. It's surprisingly empty tonight. Usually it's much more busy than this, but it makes it easier to do a tour, so I'm not complaining. We also have a lot of materials here for students to use. We have wire, we have solder, we have resistors available. And if students don't see materials they need, we have inventory request forms. We have funding. So what we will do is students can say, hey, I need this specific piece. And we will either buy it for them if they need specific tools, we help buy it for the makerspace, or if they want really specific equipment or materials, we have about $100 of funding for students per semester, so that they're able to come in and request materials and we can help subsidize that. We also hope to, we're working on this right now, but we have a bunch of other stuff that we're going to have that's heavily subsidized, so students don't have to worry about bringing in their own materials and stuff, which is really helpful. And then one thing that I'm also really excited about, but we haven't had the chance to come in yet, is we're getting a 2-part loom. It's going to hopefully arrive in January, but it's coming from Norway, so it's a little bit complicated to get it here. It's going to live right over here where this materials rack is, but it was generously donated by the class of, I believe, 96. Okay, I got confirmation it was the class of 96, and we're really excited for that. It will allow students to digitally program in designs they want, and the loom will make it for them. So you can make your own fabrics, make your own cloth materials, and then hopefully one day the sewing club will be able to come and use that a bunch too. But as you can see, right through here is the student machine shop. So I'm now going to pass you over to the wonderful Proctor, Sidney, and she will lead you through some quick tours of the machine shops, and then we'll come back to you eventually in the afternoon. So this is Sidney.
Thank you, Felix. That was wonderful, and it's so exciting that I do have the opportunity to show you the machine shop. But hello, I'm Sidney Taylor. I'm a junior engineering major, and this is my first semester of being a shop professor in person. So it's super wonderful to show you around the new machine shop. So what's lovely about the machine shop now that it has moved is that it's co-located with the Makerspace. So we're really trying to inspire students to work on projects in both spaces, and that really expands the scope of the projects that students can work on. So follow me this way and I'll show you into the shop. So the first shop is the machine shop. This is where we work on metal and other materials. And the old shop was about 2,000 square feet, and the new shop is about 3,000 square feet. So overall, we have like a 50% increase in floor space. Currently, we have the same machines in there. So there's space to add new machines, is really exciting, but we've also just been enjoying the extra space so that proctors and students can work together. So right now we have a lot of E4 students working in there because there's a hammer check this Friday, so it's pretty loud. So we're gonna walk around and I'm just gonna point a couple things out, and then we'll come back out here in the hallway where it's a little quieter and I'll tell you about our machine shop. So let's go take a tour. It'll be a little loud in there, but safety glasses. All right, come this way. seen in there are a bunch of these board students working on their hammers. The first thing you saw were some lathes, and they are the same lathes that we used to have in the old shop, but they're just oriented a little bit more conveniently now, so that as a proctor, we can stand by the lathes and look over and help the students as they are turning their parts. The next thing you saw were the mills. The mills of our students are working on the heads of their hammers. And we have the same mills as were in the old shop, but again, they're just spaced out a little bit more. And we've been enjoying learning how to use those this year. We also have the ovens in there that we're using for the heads for the hammer, or for the hard face of the hammer. And then we also have the CNC lathe and the sandblaster, and all those tools are in there as well. The shop improvement proctors are working on pegboards right now, which are spaces where there are hand tools that students can use as they're working on projects. And the pegboards are a little bit empty right now, so we're always looking to fill those up with more tools that we can use when we are working on smaller projects. And so that was the machine shop. We're now going to head to the print shop, and there are fewer to none people in here, so we can go in there as well. Okay, and because there's no people around, I can also take my mask off now, which hopefully will make you hear me better. Let me put my glasses on. All right, right this way into the wood shop. So this is the wood shop, and it's right across the hall from the machine shop. As shop crafters, we are also responsible for this space, and we train students on the machines in here. So the first thing you have is the shop lot, the router, and this is a super cool piece of equipment that I'm looking forward to getting to use this year. But we can do a lot of large scale projects in here. We have a lot more space, which is absolutely wonderful. And then coming this way, we have our spindle sander and our belt sander, and these are tools that we use for the hammer handle in E4. If you've done that project or if you've heard about that project before. So that's what those are this year. And then moving this way, we have our two vertical band saws. These are in the wood shop, and we use these again for the handle, among other things that you can use, build with the vertical band saw. And then over here, we have a bunch of other tools that we can use. We have the jointer and the planer, and smaller sander. So these are all materials and equipment that students can use. And over here we have our two foot plates and our router. Our router is also used for making the hammer handle. And I'm referencing the hammer handle just because that's what we've been making a lot of recently, because it's been before hammer season. But of course, the shop is more than happy to help students on other projects. For example, there was a student here just a couple weeks ago making a little wooden bracket to put next to his bed, so that he have a place to put his phone closer to his bed, among with like a book and stuff like that. And so I think that was really cool to see students working on little projects that they can use in their daily lives. And that was something that he was just making here in the wood shop. And then moving this way, we have a scrap metal, wood, and like material rack. And so students can come in here and see what material they're going to use for a project and then build it. And then as a machine shop, they're also thinking it'd be kind of nice to have like a fund someday where students wanted other materials and they can apply for funding to say, hey, I want to work on this project, and then maybe they can get sponsored to do that. The ESW part that you saw earlier, the solar panel, was working here in the wood shop when they were building that part. And here we have a tool rack with a bunch of stuff that we use in a wood shop. We have sandpaper, and different sorts of sanders, and drills, face coverings, goggles, hearing protection, all that kind of stuff. And then moving this way, we have our miter saw. And I've been teaching plenty of people this semester how to use this miter saw, so that's been very exciting. And then moving back towards the front of the wood shop, we just have our table saw. And lastly, we have our table saw. And so here I'm just going to talk a little bit about being a shop proctor and how excited it's been so far this semester. So something I just wanted to highlight about the shop at Harvey Mudd is that it's really student run, and I think that's really exciting. That means that our shop management and also the shop doctors are students here. And as a result of that, there was a piece of feedback where we were worried about when we were transitioning back to in-person learning, there would be like a gap of knowledge from previous years since, Proctor were training last year when we were online. But I was super excited that over the summer, the week right before school started, a bunch of shop proctors were able to come back to Mudd and have shop camp. And during this time, some returning students and proctors trained us new proctors on a bunch of machines. And that was really important to me because now I feel a lot more comfortable with machines and I can help other students. But also, it just helps form that camaraderie among the shop proctors. And now I feel like a team and we're helping other students learn how to use the machines as well. During that time, a bunch of student projects also started and have continued throughout the semester. For example, my E4 team from my Rosh year came in here and built our final deliverable for our client. This was a final deliverable that had been in the works since spring of 2020. We just never had the opportunity to build it. So we came back to the shop this fall, we finally built it, delivered it to our client. It was a lovely way to finish that project. I've also seen students making longboards. There was a student in here making a model train, and there was a student making a top, turning a top on the lathe of the shop. So students are using the space, and we are having more ideas every day of how we're going to use it in the future. So really excited to be able to share it with you here today. So that concludes the wood shop and the metal shop. This hallway that I'm walking into, just for some context, this is the hallway that goes down to the big Beckman lecture hall. If you're familiar with that area in the Libra complex. So that is currently where we are in the Libra complex in Beckman. And now I'm going to pass it back over to Felix, and he's going to give us a tour of the rest of the Makerspace back in McGregor.
Hello again. Once again, I am Felix, and we're going to head back to the Makerspace now. As Sidney just mentioned, McGregor is able to connect straight through the Libra complex via this large garage door that we have open during all steward hours. It's really nice because it creates a really clear line of sight between the shop and the Makerspace. You kind of see what's going on. As you guys probably saw, the shop now is full of windows, so you can always see what people are working on. Even if the garage door is closed, there's another separate door so students can get in all 24 hours. So as we head back this way, we're going to head towards the welding area. We have just started to get this space up and running. I'm really excited about it because we were finally able to start training stewards in the last few weeks on this, which means stewards are going to be able to start training other students as well. Here you can see one of the beautiful statues our summer stewards made. This was made by the lovely Kate Riggs. Just extra bits welded together for fun. And as you come to the welding area, these curtains were also made by our stewards. Savannah Beans spent a not insignificant portion of the summer creating these curtains so that students can be protected. Because of the way the space is laid out, we were concerned that the red curtains that were given to us initially wouldn't properly protect students' vision from the arcs and of the welds. So we really want to make sure students are going to be safe in here. And so we built these massive curtain structures so that we can make sure that everyone's safe and sound. Within the welding area, we have a few different welding tables. We have 2 welders that we can use. We have both MIG and TIG welding, which means pretty much anything you need to be put together, we can put together. You're able to get funding for some extra welding benches that we also built over the summer. As I said, the summer was absolute chaos. We were doing all sorts of fun projects. We were able to really kind of help set up this vacation. It's really exciting. We also are able to have fume hoods, and you can see some of our stewards have been practicing within the last few days of welding, and I know a lot of the stewards are really excited about this as well. It's just an extra ability that we didn't really originally have in the student shops that we're able to bring into the Makerspace, have our own separate area so it's properly safe, and really make sure that everyone has access to what they need for any project they could want. I know one of the things Mark is looking into is building a static fire stand for our liquid rocket engine that we're building. And so I will probably spend many hours in here over the next few years, hopefully building a static fire stand so that we can properly test our methyl oxygen. As we come through here, these are our wonderful doors that open out. This is how we're going to get the airplane out of the makerspace. When we were when the airplane was in Parsons, they had to take off the doors off all their hinges just in order to get it out. But now that we're here, we're able to just open up these garage doors and everything roll out. This is our outdoor section. Over to our left, we have storage designated just for clubs. So clubs like Park, clubs like Smart Stuff, Engineers for a Sustainable World now have a place to put all their stuff that's separate and away from student storage, so we can really leave students access to student storage and not overcrowd it. I see that as a big plus because, especially with this being a 5C space, we really want to be able to make sure that students from Pomona are able to store their stuff here. They don't have to hop back and forth. Really make it so that the space is more accessible. As we walk back here, we're going to go to our spray paint booth. This is the spray booth. Students can come in here with a buddy and spray paint pretty much whatever they need. We're going to wander inside really quick, take a look around, and then I'll come back out and talk about it because we have the fan on, so it's pretty loud in there. I don't want to deafen you all. So, Jonathan, if you want to come in. Us. So this booth has been really helpful. Carefully. I was able to spray. This is my rocket that I've been building for Mark. In case you hadn't figured it out, I am one of many members in that club, and I was able to do a pretty nice paint job relatively easily in the spray paint room, and we were able to use that a lot. I know a lot of other students have been painting their rockets. I plan on doing a lot of other pieces in there as well. So now we're going to head back inside. And we're going to go to the 3D print room next. This is replacing the rapid development lab that was part of the old machine shops. So we claimed a bunch of their 3D printers. They still have some of their nicer ones, but this is designed to be a room where students can come in and develop things quickly or just print things that are fun very easily. As again, we were really trying to keep our barriers to access low. So there's a separate quiz for 3D printers, and that way students don't have to go through like a bunch of different quizzes just to access the 3D printers. I'm gonna have to put my mask back on in here because there are students currently working in here, and then we will come back out. Over here, we have some of our nicer 3D printers. We have some of our nicer 3D printers. These are Formlabs sintering printers. They use nylon powder, and they are able to produce really high quality parts that don't need supports based on the way they print. They lay down a very thin layer of powder. Lasers melt that powder, and they put down layer by layer, building up this piece so that you kind of unearth the printed part from a cake of this nylon powder. It's kind of a little bit like an archaeology experiment. It's really fun. I recommend. And this is a really high quality printer that we're able to purchase in the summer. We're hoping to get more use out of it, especially for planning projects, due to its good quality. We also have this, which is our powder reclaimer and sifting machine, so that students can safely access the pieces they made. Due to the really fine nature of the powder, it needs this machine in order to make it not hazardous, and so we're able to have this and make sure that students can really be safe in what they do. Back behind me are the laser cutters. Students use these for all sorts of projects. Notably, as Sidney was mentioning, it's hammer season. As I'm a sophomore at Mudd and an engineering major, I'm an E4, and I started to build my hammer. I got to use the laser cutters to build my hammer stand. We also get to use the 3D printers to build part of our hammer stand as well. So there are a lot of examples of different pieces of the hammer stand around. Also, all sorts of different fun parts that people have made. I've seen people printing signs. I've been seeing people printing cards. You can cut cardstock. You can cut basically anything that isn't PVC or vinyl on this laser cutter, which makes it really fun, or metal, of course. This is an example of a hammer stand with a few different just pieces of information on it. You can see currently there are some students working on laser cutting something. we're gonna head back this way. Over here, we have our water jet cutters. This is something else that we've finally been able to get up and running in the last few weeks. The water jet cutters allow us to do one of the very few things the laser cutters can't do, we just cut metal. We can also cut wood and some other materials on here, but metal is a really notable one. We have two. We have the Protomax and the Wazer. The Wazer was very generously donated by some alums. They're slightly different, but they serve essentially the same function of cutting metal. The Wazer has a larger print bed, about 12 by 18 inches, which means you can cut wider pieces into larger parts. But the Protomax can cut thicker materials. So between the two, we're really able to do a lot of things in here that would be difficult to do by hand. And if anything's larger than that, Drew Price has a significantly larger water jet cutter machine shop. These things are actually really nice. They're surprisingly silent because they cut below the level of water. You can hold a conversation above. The noise. You can see in here. This is what it looks like. Water is channeled through this jet here to a very high pressure point, and then it is able to cut through the material with an abrasive added to it. As I said, we were finally able to train the stewards on this, and so I've been seeing people in here. I've seen some people cut some earrings out. I've seen Mudd Sub has been cutting parts for its submarine. This is, I don't know exactly what was being cut here, but you can tell this was done by the water jet because it's clean curves that you wouldn't be able to do on most other machines. It's also very fine and accurate, has really high precision, which allows for really nicely manufactured parts. It's just another thing that we were able to have in here that when working with the shop, it just expands what you can do really nicely. I know a lot of students, Mark as well, has been excited about being able to cut pieces for different projects. And over here, we have our PLA or FDM printers. These are all Prusa printers. They're really nice because they're somewhat cheap and they're really easy to fix. So I myself spent many an hour fixing different problems with these machines, but right now it looks like they're all up and running. I've seen these running almost 24/7 since I've gotten here. There's almost always something on one of them running. These have been really popular because of the nature of the room and because they're open use and we don't charge for material. It means students can really come in and put whatever they need. So sometimes we get really fun things like this statue, this model of a statue that was printed, or we have the Monkey Butler. This was one of the experiments that we had over the summer to test out the printers. It's really high quality and really nice. These printers are shockingly fast and really high quality for how many we're able to buy with the cost. As I said, due to we are using PLA, we're able to fully pay for all materials that students use on these 3D printers. It allows students to come in and print whatever parts they need. I know, as I said, the hammer stand is a component that was done on these printers. I know a lot of B4 students who are working on their other projects are currently using them. There's also a B4 team that's currently working on building a machine that allows us to rewind filament so that we don't lose any filament if it becomes tangled. And then we come back here, we get to our really high quality 3D printers. This is our resin printer. It's currently needs some maintenance on it. We're working on fixing it, but a resin printer works similarly to a sintering printer, just somewhat opposite. It has a bed of bowl of resin at the bottom and a sheet that lowers into it, and it slowly brings the piece out and rises the piece from the pool of resin at the bottom. This is really high quality. A piece right here. The advantages of resin printers are you can have all sorts of materials. This you can't even tell it was printed. You can't even see any lines on it. You can get clear material, you can get flexible material, you can get colored material, whatever you need. Resin printer can do, and it's really good for high-end manufacturing. So clinic teams hopefully are going to be using this a lot. And they're also hopefully going to be using these. These are the Markforged 3D printers. These have carbon fiber nylon filament. And so they're slightly more expensive to run.
We actually have to charge students for use of these, but it's not that expensive by comparison to say, I don't know, how we're manufacturing it. However, the pieces that are made on these are insanely strong. We spent an entire summer messing with parts, trying to break them, and no matter what we could do, we were not able to break them. We had people trying to cut it. We were able to. There was a long strand of filament that we were like trying. We were able to get into a full knot in place. So these are really high quality 3D printers. Again, hopefully clinic teams and people who need high end parts will be able to use these. And then yeah, I'm gonna take us outside really quick again. And this is the main space. I didn't really talk about it much earlier because we were moving through, but this is where a lot of students come to just work on our projects. I study in here sometimes. Each of these tables has an end cap that has all sorts of materials and tools and supplies in it. They're out all the time. So we have some materials, we have jewelry materials, we have miscellaneous craft materials. We have a lot of other parts and pieces that you can play with, and those are just out for free use whenever anyone needs them. We were able to really kind of, we had a few stewards in here last night organizing it all, so it's hopefully a little bit easier to find everything. But combined with this and the cart over there, that that's all our sewing materials, and those stay out overnight as well, along with the tool chest that we have. And that just allows students to come in and use things, as I said, at all hours that you make. Even when students are on shift, even when our wonderful Makerspace managers are here, students are able to come in, work on whatever they need. I've seen so many people bring in bicycles, which I never was expecting, but like people come in to fix their chains, they replace wheels. There's been tons of longboard, skateboard repairs. It really amazes me how many times I've come in here and just been shocked at whatever was staying in here or someone was working on, because I never expected something like that. So I can kind of wander back this way. We also have a meeting area up front. I know a lot of clubs meet up here. We have a television where people can broadcast stuff. We have sound systems so students can play music during their shift, which is really nice. The shop does something similar. And so we're able to kind of create a nice ambiance for the makerspace. We're gonna head back this way. So now we're going to the AV studio. We're gonna wander past another team room. At the beginning, I mentioned we had one. This is our second one. You can now see students actually working in there. But over here we have a team room, and next to it we also have another collaboration area. And there's students working here all the time. I see people in here so often. This is our students' project storage area. I'm not going to go in here, but it allows students to store whatever they need, especially if they don't want to have to haul it back and forth from their dorms. It allows us to just really, especially help students from the other 5 Cs store these pieces. We have more couches and benches, a whiteboard that is just absolute chaos. One thing I've loved about this space is that the whiteboards are always full of something, whether that be homework or just people being creative. It's a lot of fun. The robotics labs, we have 2 robotics labs here. These are one of the few spaces in the makerspace that don't belong to us. It belongs to Prof. Dodds and I believe Prof. Burkle, I want to say. And they have lots of come in and then also all of their own projects. But you often see students in and out of here. As we come through here, we're out to the AV studio, which is where I will be taking questions eventually. So this is the AV studio. It's currently under a little bit of construction. We're working on some projects to make it more more usable. But in here, theoretically, we have a sound booth. This will eventually be up and running to the point where people can mix their own audio, record podcasts in here. We really want to make sure that it's like available for student use as much as possible. I currently spend a lot of time studying here, but that's not important. We also have our AV studio. So this space is currently, we're working on getting better tiling in here, better sound in here. And this will be open for students to record video, do small sets, I believe, and other projects in here. We have a bunch of cameras. We just bought a bunch of materials like cameras. We have a tripod that just arrived. We're getting more and more like
AV equipment in so that hopefully once the studio is properly functional, we can get like really large scale production shoots in here. That's very exciting. I also wanted to note the Makerspace, as Sidney mentioned in the shops, the Makerspace is entirely student run. I'm one of the head stewards. I'm one of 4. There are also, I think, about 39 other stewards that come in and run shifts throughout the day. So most days they start at 1 and end at 11 p.m. And those stewards are there to help other students find projects. They're to help other students use tools. We've slowly been training them over the course of the year because this is a new space, so we don't have any institutional knowledge. But this coming semester, we're going to get a new round of stewards in, and stewards who have been around this year will hopefully come through and be around next semester and help train those other people. And so we're really excited to see more and more students become involved in the Makerspace. Our wonderful camera operator, Jonathan, is one of our stewards. You may have seen people wandering around in blue aprons. That's how we know our stewards. Everyone, this is actually a really fun project. We gave everyone their own apron and said, have fun. A lot of people embroidered, a lot of people sewed. I saw someone who did needle felting and then was able to needle felt her name onto her apron. And so everyone has these cool customized aprons. And one of the things we're looking into doing is making little pins. We just bought a button maker, making little buttons so that students can know, hey, I'm really great at sewing. Hey, I'm really good at woodworking. I'm really good at welding. Talk to me about these things. And so making sure that students know exactly who to talk to for all the project needs. I think it's about time for us to start our Q&A. So I'm not exactly sure how this handover is going to happen, but I will see you in a bit to talk about any questions you have. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Felix, for giving us a tour of the Makerspace. Right now, we are going to give our panelists a few minutes to log on, and then we can get started with Q&A. If you do have any questions, please put them in our Q&A box, and then we'll get that started. Well, since we have Drew here first, Drew, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Drew Price. I am the machine shop manager at Mudd. I have been here for a little bit over 2 years, and I came from a background of working in research and development and contract engineering. And I find a lot of analogs to how the engineering department and how the education at Mudd works, where we're constantly trying to figure out new problems, and we're looking at new technology, or we have some new harebrained idea that we're trying to attack and figure out how best to solve the problem. So I'm really, really glad to be here. Thank you, Felix and Sidney, for the tour. That was fantastic. Thanks for showing us the spaces and talking a little bit about how the campus is embracing going from ideas to things that are physical and things in the world. That's something that gets a lot of us really, really excited.
Thank you. We are missing Jeff and Kim.
I am here. If you could turn on my camera for me.
Oh, yes. Let me
I'm locked out. There we go. Thank you. Hello, everybody.
Jeff, if you can introduce yourself for us, that'd be great.
Okay. Sorry, just fixing something. I'm Jeff Groves, professor of literature at the college. I've been around for 30 some odd years. Probably I know a lot of people in the audience. Hello, people in the audience. I've gotten to do a lot of really cool things at Harvey Mudd, but one of the coolest things I've gotten to do is be the inaugural Makerspace director. And you can understand why that's so cool based on the 2 students who have done our tour for us. It is such a joy to work with students like this at the college, but also in the Makerspace. There's such, and in the shops, there's such dedication, such intelligence, such just breadth of knowledge that I'm constantly floored by it. It's also great to work with my colleague, Kim Neal, the Makerspace manager, and with Drew Price, who's the machine shop manager. And we probably shouldn't admit this, but we have a lot of fun down here. Kim, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Kim Neal. I'm the new Makerspace manager. I've been here since the end of June. I was able to work with the summer stewards for about half of their term, Most of the boxes had already been opened by the time I arrived, but there was a little bit of labeling that still needed to be done. And my background is theater, live events, professional and academic, and also supporting a TV film program. I'm an audio specialist, but I've also done a lot of other things involved with production. And I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you all for being here tonight. So I'm going to kick off our Q&A with some of our pre-submitted questions. We do have a few live questions as well. And audience, if you have any questions, please put it in our Q&A. Our first question, what's one of the most interesting projects that you've seen a student or student group make so far?
I'll go first. The beginning of this semester, right when the Makerspace started to become open and the shops opened, there were some students that really wanted to make skateboards. And Kim and I came in one morning and found laminated wood skateboard decks clamped together with glue oozing out of them. And they had put together forms so that they had some shape to them and looked like they were planning ahead to put the mounts for the trucks and things like that. And that happened over a weekend when we were not around, and there were awesome things happening in the space without us even being aware of it. So that's probably the most recent cool thing that I saw.
My answer was also going to be skateboards, so I'll have to select a different thing. So on the day, the last weekday before Halloween, the Friday before Halloween, the place was buzzing. There were at least 20 students inside at these tables, just going to town on costumes they'd been working on for weeks or costumes they were improvising that day. I think the best one I saw was a Bowser, which is a boss in Mario, like Mario Brothers video games. And so they had this giant like horned shell that they put on their backpack, and it looked really fantastic.
I'll jump in here too. As some of you know, I teach a letterpress course down at the library where students learn to print on 19th century printing presses. And this semester, I've got 2 students who are experimenting with printing plates, with making printing plates in the makerspace. So one is really trying to master the laser cutter and figure out how to make a very intricate and quite beautiful flower print. We tested it last night and it didn't work perfectly, but I think on the next iteration, it will print very well. And another student is using a resin printer to make printing plates as well, and figuring out how to get incredible detail out of the plates that he's making. So it's really exciting to see the interface of these really old machines that I teach and these very new machines that the students are all over.
I can also answer this one. There's been tons of things that I've just wandered into over here, but I will say the shopping cart I mentioned on the electronics studio, I still have no idea what that does, but the number of different devices I saw strapped to that, and I've seen it just randomly wheeled in different places around campus. So I really want to find out what that project was. I'm deeply curious about what it's supposed to do, because it looks like it's either going to take over the world or shoot flames or something. So that's probably my favorite thing that I've seen in here.
Yeah, I agree with all these answers. I'll also do a little plug for both MudSub and Mark here. So part of the things that Felix had shown at the water jet, the Protomax, were the thruster guards for MudSub's robot. And that's been like super nice to work on because we've been working in CAD the last year since being remote. And so now that we're back in person, we can like finally use the water jet and get some parts made and add those to our robot. And then also Mark with the rocketry team, just like coming in on a random weekday evening and having a bunch of students working on their rockets, like their first rocket. That's been really fun to see.
Thank you. Such all amazing projects. What are some fun ways you get students to take the leap out of their comfort zone and embrace scary tools and machinery they've never encountered before?
I would really like to hear from Sidney and Felix on this one, but the way I have done that is to just share my own fears with tools and tried to normalize that experience. We're all afraid of some tools when we first start with them.
I would say that honestly, students are more willing to come out of their comfort zone than you would expect. Like very rarely have I talked to a student where they're like, I'm afraid and I don't want to do this. Usually it's, I'm slightly nervous about this thing, but I want to learn how to do it. Like, especially Mudd students, everyone wants to figure it out. I have yet to meet anyone who's like, I'm not willing to try. So one thing I've noticed is that when I'm able to sit down and explain to a student really carefully, like, don't worry, these are all the ways you could possibly hurt yourself on this machine. Like, obviously there's going to be more, but like reasonably, there are 3 ways to hurt yourself. And as long as you don't touch the extruder head or don't touch the hot piece or keep your hands away from the laser, like there are all these safeguards in place that really keep students safe. And once students kind of start to realize that the whole makerspace is designed to keep them safe and the stewards are here to really help them out as much as possible, almost everyone's willing to try. Like as I said, I've really not met anyone who wasn't willing to come out of that comfort zone. And I think a huge part of that is having stewards on shift all the time, able to help students out, willing to and excited to. It also really helps that everyone's so excited. Like I help run steward trainings on Tuesdays and Sundays. And we did water jet this weekend. Everyone was crowding around the water jet, so excited to learn how to use it. They've been seeing it in the back of the shop for ages. They were super hyped to use it. So I think a combination of seeing the stewards so excited and comfortable with the machines and then being able to explain to everyone clearly how everything works really allows people to come out and try everything. So.
Yeah, I agree. And in terms of the machine shop, I think the machine shop can be pretty intimidating just because there are some louder and larger machines that we're using, and the lathes and the mills aren't inherently friendly when you first approach them. But once you know how to turn them on and use them, I think they're a lot more approachable. And I think during hammer season, when the E4 students have been working on their projects, a lot of times as a proctor, it's been more of making sure that the students do the correct thing than students being hesitant to use the machines, because oftentimes students will just do what they think is right. And then as a proctor, you kind of be like, oh, watch out, maybe do this instead. And so I haven't really encountered too many students who have been hesitant once they get in the shop. That being said, I think there's always work to be done to make the shop more approachable and accessible for students who might not go in there for classes. I think the shop has a tendency to have a lot of E4 use and a lot of clinic use and then a lot of student club use. But I think we're working on expanding that and allowing students to work on personal projects in the shop as well.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Sidney and Felix, for sharing that about working in the spaces. I just wanted to share that we put safety on an extremely high pedestal since we're a teaching shop, and we try to be very conscientious about letting everybody know when they're working on something that everybody's here to learn, that we're not expecting anyone to come in with proficiency. We're here to be empowering. We're here for all of the users to be able to see what the possibilities are and get excited about those and reinforce learning opportunities when something doesn't go quite right, because I break and mess up things all the time. And like letting everybody know that I didn't learn how to work large metalworking equipment until I was in college, and now this is something I really enjoy. That has some resonance, but the big resonance comes from the student workers, from Sidney and from Felix and from the teams of Mudders who are teaching all of their peers the things that they know and exploring together how that they can figure out how to do something they don't quite know how to do yet.
Great, thank you so much. Our next question, are there any plans to acquire new lathes, mills, equipment for the machine shop?
Anyone who's come in and met me knows that there's always a shopping list that I'm working on. One of the cool things that Sidney mentioned is we moved the student machine shop from a 2,000 square foot facility to a 3,000 square foot facility, and we've moved all of the same equipment that we had. So now we have room for growth, and we have room to add some more modern tools and things like that. And there are things on our shopping list, and we definitely want to explore the possibility of either changing out or adding some new equipment and some more modern equipment to the machine shop.
Great, thank you. So question for our students. So with all these wonderful makerspace facilities, how do you students find any time to attend classes and labs, study, do the reading assignments and homework?
Felix, how do you do it? You just, I don't know, you just got to make time, and that's part of college, is finding priorities and just knowing how to prioritize different projects that you're working on. So I think my first year, I sort of wish that I had gone to the machine shop my first semester a lot more. And so just telling students that you don't have to have some big project to work on just to come here and, you know, even just to study, and then you'll have ideas. But yeah, it's a balancing act. I think everyone experiences that to some extent.
Well, I joked earlier during the presentation. I basically live in the makerspace. I study in here. I work in here. I have clubs in here. Actually, I think all of my clubs meet in here, other than like one that I'm running. And honestly, it's just that this is where I'm comfortable. This is where I'm happy. This is where, as a student, this is what I want to be doing. And I know a lot of other students feel that way, and we're trying to make it so that students who aren't just like me are able to do that as well. And so some parts of that are, we are looking to have a bunch of workshops that are super quick and easy projects. So things like needle felting or sewing, where you can just spend 15, 20 minutes on it and leave it. And I honestly use it as a way to relax. I'm studying and working all the time, as a good Mudd student is. And so coming in here and being able to use all the machines and just work on a side project is honestly one of the highlights of my days oftentimes. And it's a way for me to just keep my mind off of schoolwork sometimes. And yeah, it's honestly, I have it as a priority for myself because it's one of the highlights of campus for me. So.
Yeah, something I'll add is when I was here my first year, we didn't have McGregor. So I was here for a semester and a half at Mudd without it. And I don't understand what we used to do, because I find myself in McGregor every single day. So Felix hasn't had the opportunity of being a student at Mudd without McGregor, but I think it's great that now and for the next many, many years of students, everyone will be able to experience McGregor. And
I can concur with that. I have no classes in here, and I'm in here probably at least 6 hours a day. So I would agree.
Great, thank you. A comment and question. What a beautiful environment for exploration and growth. There are two questions. Do the bandsaws rotate away from the wall to handle long pieces of wood? And second, is the space open 24 hours?
I'll answer the bandsaw question, and then I'll let Sidney talk about hours for the shop. I saw that there was an hours question about the makerspace answered in the chat. So if you and Felix could expound on what the hours actually mean in practice, that would be really cool. So the vertical bandsaws that were in the wood shop tour don't rotate away from the wall, because the limitation for feeding stock into them is the throat depth to the left of the blade. But we do have some other saws that let students work with large sheets of material, like the panel saw, and there's a large professional grade table saw that we can feed large work pieces into. So that's a great question. Thank you.
In terms of hours for the shop, the machine shop is open about 6 to 8 hours a day during designated times when proctors will always be there. So returning proctors can open the shift, and then the shop by themselves, and then like the newer proctors who are being trained always have like 2 proctors in there. But they have 2-hour shifts, so the shop is open during those times. It's roughly 4 to 10 p.m. every day, with like earlier and later hours, you know, on the weekends and stuff like that. And then beyond those hours, any certified shop proctor can open the machine shop, and then they'll just email out to all the shop users to say, hey, I'm opening the shop for the next 3 hours, come on down and work on some projects. And then of course for safety, the shop is hard closed, late at night till early in the morning, just so that students aren't working there overnight to finish like a project right before hammer check, because like Drew said earlier, safety is the #1 priority, and lack of sleep and sleep deprivation is gonna just lead to mistakes and safety issues. But beyond those hours, if there's a certified shop proctor who's available, then students can go in there and open it up. And that's part of being like a student-run shop, is that once you're certified, then you can have the freedom to open it whenever you need and then help students in there.
Yeah, and I believe I mentioned this on the tour, but I've talked so much today, I can't remember quite all that I've said. But the Makerspace is technically open 24/7. There are certain things like welding that we are only allowed during steward hours, but steward hours run, I believe it's about, usually we try to have a 1 hour offset at night so students can come from the shop to the Makerspace if they want to continue working on their projects. And it's usually open from about 1 to 11, most weekdays, with slightly adjusted hours on Mondays and weekends. However, you do not have to have a steward present to work in the Makerspace. As I mentioned, you can work in most of the main areas 24/7, and it just makes it more accessible to students.
Great, thank you so much. Another question that we do have is, are the Makerspace facilities available to non-students or alumni?
Sure. We've had a lot of questions from alums, and we're actually very interested in having alums come back to the college, learn about the space, maybe do a project here. The only sort of restriction we place on that is that the students come first. And so student use is the primary use of the space. We welcome alums to come back and try things out, but not if that interferes with the work that the students are doing in the space. That's really our only prescription.
Great, thank you. Next question, what is happening in the robotics space? Who was the person that runs it that Felix mentioned?
That's Prof. Burkle. He's the chair of the computer science department, and Prof. Dodds, who's also a computer science professor. So they each have their own lab.
Great, thank you. Our next question, how invaluable has the Makerspace been for enhancing the quality of education for the applicable disciplines?
Well, I've been a student in E4 this semester, as I mentioned before, and this is the first semester we've been able to use the Makerspace, obviously, as it is a new space. I will say that having it here has been really helpful when we're doing, as I said, it's hammer season, so everything's focused on the hammer. And so being able to use the laser cutters and 3D printers in here has been really helpful. I know a lot of E85 students and students who are doing electronics engineering have been using electronics benches a lot. I can't speak from anything beyond my own experience, but I know a lot of students coming here to work on different projects for their classes. So.
Yeah, I'm in E85 this semester. I learned how to solder in the Makerspace, and I soldered my Red 5 board so I could get started on all of our labs. And I did that at the electronics station that Felix showed during his tour. So, I mean, to answer the question, invaluable, and I think this space is connected to personal products, but then also to classes, and that's just natural.
We're also a 5C resource, so we have students coming from Scripps who are art majors, and grad students from CGU who are working on their MFA, and they've expressed a great deal of appreciation to have a space to work on their homework and their class projects too.
Great, thank you. So what's something you've made or in the process of making at this moment?
Okay, so something that I would like to make, and I can share it here, is that I'm really into freelining. And so freelining are those like little wheeled platforms that students will use to transport themselves across campus. And something that'd be really convenient is to have a handle that would attach the two free lines so that when you're done freelining and you're like walking to class, you can hold them more efficiently. And so I have some designs brewing and some CAD, and I want to make that in the machine shop. So hopefully handles on free lines could happen.
I have too many projects and too little time, but one of the things I'm currently working on, as I mentioned, I'm in Mark, so I've built my level 1 rocket already, and now I'm building a bigger rocket with more electronics, and that will go faster and higher and everything. And so that's my level 2 rocket, and so that's something I'm working on right now. It's a lot of epoxy, it's a lot of electronics. I also, one of my plans is I want to make 8th scale hammers. We have the massive Ethor 3x scale hammer in the engineering department. Drew has a little half scale hammer on his desk. That's probably one of my favorite things in the entire shop. And I plan on making little tiny 8th scale hammers that I'm either gonna like make into a necklace, use for earrings. I'm gonna figure it out. That's one of the other projects I want to do. And then yeah, there it is, the wonderful half scale hammer. But yeah, and then I have a few other small different woodworking projects because I really want to spend some more time in the wood shop too.
One of the really fun things that we started using the shop and the Makerspace equipment for was things that go around campus. So we were able to make batches of swag for graduating seniors that we could mail everybody during COVID time when we couldn't actually be here to celebrate together. And we were able to mark them. These were made in Claremont. Even if you're not in Claremont, we're here for you, and we remember when you were here, and we want to share that together. So that was a really fun thing we did recently.
Awesome, thank you. Our next question, what is your favorite part about the Makerspace? I know there's a lot of favorites, but what's your most favorite?
That's really easy for me. It's working with the students. So after the students left over the summer, there were no students here for a couple weeks, and it was boring. And so then the students came back, and it was just so awesome again to see everybody and to hear their great ideas and to understand what they're working on and why they need certain materials. It's just really, really fun to talk to them about just about anything they're working on.
I honestly don't think I can pick just one piece of this. There's so many parts of this I love. I think if I had to pick one thing, it would be the ability for students to meet and work in this space. As I said, a bunch of clubs meet in here, and being able to have a club come sit down, have everyone working on their own project at once. I've seen like sewing club comes in, has all of the tables full, sewing machines are full, people are hand sewing, people are crocheting, people are knitting. And just being able to have that space where I can meet with other students and work on all our projects has just been incredible. I know the Makerspace before this was a tiny room that didn't ever have enough space for all the students. And so that's been probably my favorite part.
I would join in on what Felix and Kim have said. In fact, Drew and I were talking off to the side a little bit while the tour was going on. Sorry, Felix, we weren't paying careful enough attention. But one of the things that is just so amazing about this space is the interaction of human beings with the built environment. So last spring, Drew and I pretty much lived in this space by ourselves. There was nobody else around until the summer to really work in here with us. And now it is becoming incredibly lived in, and it feels like just a really comfortable place. Things are starting to wear a little bit, and that's exciting, right? Because it means that people are traveling across that piece of carpet, or getting a little something, a little glue or something on the table. It means it's being used, that people are really valuing the space. And so that's what's really exciting about spending any time at all in the Makerspace to me.
I want to echo what all of you just said with a slightly different flavor. So I've told some of you before that one of my favorite things about engineering as a discipline or a study or whatever it means to you is that it really is where the intersection of the world and people's minds meet, is where you have people interacting with inanimate objects, and the groups of people that find ways to interact with their world in the Makerspace is truly amazing. And Mudders really have that. A lot of us have backgrounds that aren't one discipline. We're not just engineers or physicists or scientists or accountants or whatever. We're built up of lots of different things. And I think the Makerspace does a really wonderful job of intentionally encouraging the whole person from lots of different backgrounds and lots of different inspirations that is really vibrant within Mudd and within the world outside. And it's really amazing to be part of that.
Great, thank you, everyone. Do you have any success stories on those who didn't have a clue on what they're doing and successfully completed a project that they're super proud of?
I can say me, honestly. I came into the Makerspace with a lot of woodworking experience, but there's not a lot of woodworking in the Makerspace. That's mostly the shop. So coming in, I like kind of knew how to sew, maybe, and I kind of knew a bunch of things. I'd used a 3D printer maybe once, but I hadn't actually touched it. And now I'm, in charge of doing a lot of maintenance and all these things. And so I came in really knowing nothing. And like the mask I've been wearing on and off, I made this over fall break just on the sewing machines in the Makerspace because I had time and I needed new masks. Honestly, I don't know if I can think of one particular example because there's been so many examples. I know a lot of students have come in. I have a lot of friends who have been like, hey, can you just show me how to use the 3D printer so I can print this one specific thing? And I've spent 20 minutes showing them and they've been able to, they had the piece within the next day. So as I said, I can't give one specific example, but it's been so many people who have come in and just been able to pick up whatever they need for whatever project they're looking for. But yeah.
Yeah, I'll say the same thing. I think for me, a recent experience is like using the Protomax, the water jet, and getting it to work. And in my previous experiences with water jets, they've always been huge, and because you're like cutting huge sheets of metal. But this one is super fun because you can just put like a square foot piece of 1/4" aluminum and make some really intricate little pieces. And for me, that really expanded like the possibilities because you could make paper, like jewelry out of paper with a laser cutter, but now we can make it out of metal. And so it's just like, there's so many more things that we can do. And the process of learning how to use the machine was talking with a couple other people who have used it, and then also just going and reading some stuff and reading manuals and watching tutorials online and then figuring out how to get it working. And I think also another thing that probably a lot of people have learned is the time investment. Like if you invest time in the space to learn how to use the machines, you get out of it what you put in.
Great, thank you. Our next question. So if students are interested in working for the Makerspace in upcoming semesters, what's the process to get in?
So I think we're still figuring out exactly what the process is going to look like, but essentially there's an application to be a steward. Anyone can apply right now. We have everyone from frosh to seniors working as stewards. The only requirement is that you are willing to be excited about the Makerspace. We have all sorts of different people I was also helping hire stewards over the summer, and we chose artists. We chose people who knew everything about electronics. We chose people who knew everything about CAD, people who didn't know anything about anything, but really wanted to do it. And we're super excited. So in the future, that's probably going to look like over the summer or in the spring, we'll send out applications so people can apply. And then then we'll train folks up in, hopefully we'll try and get something similar to shop camp. We can train folks up before the summer starts. And then again, in the winter, we'll kind of fill any positions that open up over the winter semester with people in the spring. Also, there was a question in the chat, are stewards paid or volunteer? We are paid positions. So I get paid to have fun in the Makerspace, which is awesome. I am so hyped. When I told my dad I got this job, he was like, that is the nicest job you're ever gonna get. Live with it while you can. So yeah.
I want to just reinforce something that Felix was saying. It's really important that the hiring of stewards is a steward-driven process. It's the stewards who really understand what's needed in the Makerspace, much more than Kim and I do. They're the people who are on the ground all the time. They're talking to other people. They're getting a sense of where we might be able to build our team out. And they did an absolutely fantastic job this last summer of hiring the steward team for the fall. And I'm sure they're going to do an equally fantastic job hiring the student team for the spring.
Great, thank you so much. Oh, Drew, do you have something to add?
I just wanted to echo what Prof. Groves was saying about the student-driven hiring and recruiting. I don't send out a message to the student body to recruit shop proctors to work in the machine shop. The student leadership team does that. The shop has been around for a little while and it's very self-sustaining, and the leadership team works with the staff and their faculty members to help decide when it's time to upgrade machinery. So there was a question earlier about, can we add more machinery? Yes, we can absolutely add machinery. The students are part of that discussion. And that means they're part of the budgetary decisions. And Kim Vandiver, alum, also posted in the chat wondering about space that they're building at MIT about things like locked storage. We have locked storage in the makerspace where if you're a student and you have access to the storage area, you can get into it, but the individual project areas are on open shelving. And that works for our organization. A lot of the logistics of how the makerspace and the shop work are because of the people who are invested in operating it. And building that mentality of how the team works together, I think, is the tricky part. It's not whether there's keys on the lockers, it's who has, who can get to the building.
Thank you. This question is more for Jeff, Kim, and Drew. Where do you see the Makerspace machine shop going in 5 years?
I'll start. This is a really exciting question to me because what I think we are in the process of doing is not building two great but separate spaces, but working towards a very large space for student creativity and student making that involves everything we have done in the past in the shops, everything we are doing now in the makerspace, and pulls those things together in a way that makes it fairly seamless for students to move from one space to another to get whatever project it is that they want to get done. So if I had to hazard a guess, in 10 years, we probably wouldn't really be talking about the shops and the makerspace as separate spaces. We would be talking about one large operation that might be staffed still with several different managers, but I think we will see these things grow together. That's my guess. And I'd be curious to know what Drew and Kim have to say about that too.
It'll be interesting to see where things go. I think we're hoping to have more stock of materials. So, and more random and a larger variety of materials. So we'll need to discuss storage of those things and how students can access them just to use between the shops and the makerspace. And in 5 years, maybe the laser cutter is no longer popular, but we'll need some other thing. And so I kind of think that I think it's hard to say where we'll be exactly in 5 years, but it's going to be exciting.
I want to see the spaces be completely rearranged from what they are now. I encourage my students, and I think we do throughout the college, to see what the lived in space really looks like and see what is useful or how you can rearrange a workspace. One of my favorite things to watch is an art student next to an engineering major, next to someone who's interested in architecture, all using the same piece of equipment in a totally different way and inspiring each other. So like what Prof. Groves was saying, where the spaces grow together and the interests grow together is where the real creativity comes from, is where people of different backgrounds bleed into each other and we learn from each other using the space together. So I think that in 5 years from now, there's going to be a much broader mix of people using the spaces to build neat stuff.
Great, thank you. So we're running low on time, so I have 2 more questions for our panelists today. So our other question, late night. Okay, how can alumni, parent, friends, community support the Makerspace?
We are looking for friends to the Makerspace in every possible way that we can develop them. We've already had a lot of people who have stepped up to support the Makerspace financially. We've done very well in raising funds for the Makerspace. We've had people donate equipment. We've had people contact us about giving us old but still working, still good equipment that students might be able to use. We've had people contact us about materials that students might be able to use. So really at sort of any level of support, we find that very helpful. We are still very young. We've only had the doors open for 2 months. So there are a lot of things that we still would like to have find their way into the Makerspace. Materials, because we don't want to charge students for materials more than we have to. Finding ways of getting lots of materials that students can practice on into the Makerspace, that's really important too. So there are lots and lots of ways to support the Makerspace. And I'm groves@hmc.edu. So if you want to explore those in more detail via email, just email me.
Great, thank you, Jeff. And audience member, I will be sending you his contact information and opportunities that you can do to support them. Our last and final question, Sidney, it has to do with your shirt. What are the current top 10 reasons to attend Mud based on your t-shirt?
Felix is going to come through me and read it. Okay, this is a shirt from SWE, which is the Society of Women Engineers, and it's like the top 10 reasons to attend Mud.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 1, south is north of west and east is south of north. Makes perfect sense. Number 2, rhinos always run at 3/5 C. Number 3, instead of failing tests in class, I prefer to fail them in the comfort of my room or an elevator or outside at 3 in the morning. Number 4, I got lost in the Lever complex and couldn't get out. Number 5, someone told me this was Harvard Med. Number 6, the only foreign language required here is Python. Number 7, I love it when I'm doing my homework and the sun explodes. Number 8, I thought to myself, why not? And it's like, why Sub-Zero? Number 9, yeah, I wouldn't be able to find my dorm on a campus that wasn't a straight line. Number 10, I knew that in order to truly understand recursion, I would first have to understand recursion. And the N+1 reason is I like my fire taller than I like my buildings.
Thank you, Sidney and Felix. Thank you. I want to thank our amazing panelists for joining us today and for showing us the Makerspace and sharing your experiences with us. Thank you to our audience for your questions and for attending this event. We will follow up within the next week or so with the recorded video. Next, we do have Making Music Using Low Latency Technology in the New Jersey Gay Men's Chorus with David Lau, class of 05, on Friday, November 12th at 5 p.m. Pacific time. We are also looking for speakers for 2022, so if you are interested in being a Mud Talk speaker, please contact us at alumni@hmc.edu. Future events can be found on our website by visiting alumni.hmc.edu. Thanks again for joining us tonight and have a great night, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Good night, everybody.